Okay, great to see so many people here. It's great to see that it's a big interest in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, not just from us from Humblebee. I thought before I hand over the word to Van, I would just talk shortly about why we have this seminar here in the stairs today. I actually met Van nearly 15 years ago in China. I was working in Beijing and Van in Shanghai. Already then we were talking a lot about great potential on the Chinese market, of course, Chinese companies as a production partner to Swedish companies, but also the growing middle class and the force of the innovation that we started to see there. And then me and Van, we have stayed in contact, and then a year ago we met again. And Van had then moved to Hong Kong, and he was telling me about all the things that happened there. He was talking about cities that have gone from 2 million into 20 million in 20 years. And I just said, we have to go here. So I'm Tove Ba, and I'm the CEO of Humblebee, a digital studio based here in Gothenburg. And we are part and sitting here together with the 15 companies within Vinn Group. And since we are working every day with supporting our customers in developing the future services within digital, this is something that I saw we just have to go to the Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area and experience what's going on there. So in September, we took all of the team, nearly 30 people, and we traveled for 5 days. We of course, went into Shenzhen, visited companies there. With the support of Business Sweden, we got to visit Tencent, and I don't think anyone leaves Tencent other than feeling that this is something amazing. I mean, just their service, WeChat, has 1 billion users. And they have a whole ecosystem just within their app. You get the feeling that you can live within their app. And then, of course, since we believe in doing stuff at Humblebee, we did not just want to visit companies. We also wanted to work with companies based in the area. So we approached a community called Cyberport. I think they have about 1,000 startups in their community, and we invited the startups to come and co-create with us. So during half a day, we co-created we were about 50 people, and we were working within the fields of smart city and smart living, which is a very current subject within Hong Kong. And the outcome was just amazing. It was so much energy, enthusiasm, and some of the ideas. I know you said, Van, that you could execute some of them immediately and build a startup around them. So we will see what will happen after this. When we were there, we also got a question about, of course, and also asking ourselves, what will Humblebee do with this knowledge and in this region? And we got asked to be the first member of the Nordic Innovation House starting up in Hong Kong. So we were back already in October again for the inauguration of the Nordic Innovation House in Hong Kong. There is already a Nordic Innovation House in Silicon Valley and in New York and in Singapore. This one is the first on the Chinese market. So we joined. I was thrown up on the stage, joined by companies from Iceland, Norway, and Finland. We had a panel discussion and a fantastic network. And now, through Nordic Innovation House, Humblebee now has a virtual membership. We have a space in the center of Hong Kong. And we have now the potential of investigating this region even further. We have already met a lot of interesting companies, potential partners, potential customers, and we brought home a few ideas and already seen solutions that we believe our customers should be using and benefit from. So we would just see where the next step is. I think our journey in Hong Kong and in the Chinese market has started. And now I will hand over to Van, Trade Commissioner to Hong Kong and Macau on Business Sweden. He gave this presentation for us when we were in Hong Kong, and we got very inspired. I know that you tweaked it some.
Yeah, changed a bit.
Yeah, but I'm sure after this you will see that there is fantastic potential here.
Thank you, Tove. Thanks for... Thanks for the invitation. I'm extremely happy to be here, to see you all again from Humblebee, who visited Hong Kong and Shenzhen, and also have this opportunity to present to a broader audience about the market in China and Greater Bay. I've been working in Greater China for the past 17 years, 5 years in Taiwan, 10 years in Shanghai, heading for the east, west, and southern part, and now from Hong Kong for the past 2 years to cover Hong Kong, Macau, and the Greater Bay Area. When I first said Greater Bay in Silicon Valley, they were laughing because the Bay, they call it Bay Area in Silicon Valley, in 6.8 million, and Greater Bay is 68 million. So it's 10 times bigger in terms of population. Since I only got 20 minutes roughly, I would just give you a snapshot so you have understanding of what's happening over on the other side of the globe in the Asia perspective, mainly China, and then we will look into digitalization since most of you work with digital solutions. And then move into Hong Kong and Shenzhen to see what's cooking over there. So, how many of you have been to China? Except the Humblebee people? Still quite many. That's good. Here's a picture where it shows within the circle is more than 50% of the world population. So it's a 3 billion people living in this circle, and more people inside than outside of the circle. It's 33% of the GDP. It's 55% of the world growth. So most of the growth are in Asia today, and it will be most of the growth in the future for the coming decades. 60% also of the mega cities are within this area. When we say mega cities, we're talking about clusters of cities of 10 million or more people live in this area. In China, more than 200 cities with over 1 million inhabitants. So it's huge. They are clustering together in different mega cities. So that we will see more of in this region. And let's see here. So just how you divide it up to see how the growth is, where you see Asia has the major growth, and you see that China is driving the growth. So it has been around 20 to 40% for the past decades, and now it's slowing down a bit to 30, and then to 20 and 25 roughly percent until 2050. So the growth will still be very high in Asia, and China is the major part of that. And as you can see, I don't know if you see the number over there, but you see that China is growing around 16%, 2016, and 2050, up to 20% of the total growth for the world. And Asia is growing from 33 to 45%. So China is growing. You have the mature markets of Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Singapore. They're actually shrinking in terms of the proportion to Asia. Southeast Asia, Central Asia, India is growing. So people from Europe have to shift their mindset towards to Asia. So that's where things are happening going forward. And the drivers are, I talked about the mega cities. So it's the urbanization is one huge driver. It creates people want to, purchase things. People building a lot of construction within that. So that is driving the growth. And then it's the consumption. So the middle class is growing extremely fast. As you can see on the graph here, you see the other graphs is the other regions. But in Asia, it's growing extremely fast. And you can also see the middle class on the bars over there, that APAC is growing, but in other regions it's actually shrinking going forward. Okay? So the focus is Asia. So that's really short just to get your mindset to think of, okay, what's happening within the world? Asia is the growth, is where you should look at. And then when you come to China, which is the driver of the growth in Asia, or driver of the growth in the world. Here you can see, just to compare China, where you look at it as a country, it's actually as the size of a continent. So if you look at the different provinces, you can see Hong Kong, of course, as a hub in Asia, is as big as Singapore. You have Shanghai with 25 million people, is as big as Malaysia. So you don't need to spread out to different countries when you approach China. It's more one market, you reach the size of the economies of many markets. And Sweden is as big as Inner Mongolia. Yeah? So, so that's a good comparison. And Taiwan is as big as Taiwan. So we didn't actually change that. So I like usually when I mention this. But yeah, what you can see here is also the coastal provinces where the major economies are, where the major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen are located. There's another comparison where they compared Chinese cities to countries. You visited Shenzhen, the economy is as big as Sweden. So you have some smaller cities, it's as big as the Nordic countries, and some other cities is more or less like the Eastern Europe it covers. And then you have, I don't know if you see on the map, it's in South America, Africa, and some countries. So you can reach out on the provincial level as big as huge countries, or city level as huge as smaller economies. So that's the unique thing with China, I would say. I will come back to. The growth has been around 10% or about 10% in average since they opened up the market in '79. 2008, it started to dip below. So now they say the new normal is around 6-7%. But it's still a huge growth if you compare to EU and US. And by growing in this speed today, they grow by a Swedish economy per year. So with a growth of 5-6%, they will, in 30 years, they will double the economy. So it's still a huge growth. They see that they're going until 2050 with this speed. So I would still say it's early. What's unique with China is actually these two things. Is scalability. So if you go there to produce something, you can scale up. You have a small scale, you can make mass production of billions of units of products. Yeah? So that's unique with China. You cannot more or less not do it anywhere else unless you have like your own production, you have a working value chain. The scalability also comes into the market. So if you have a product, it's a homogeneous market. You reach out, it's 95% or Han Chinese, and then you have 5% that are minorities from the Central Asia. But when you launch something, you become extremely big. So you mentioned Tencent, Tove. There's another company called Renren, similar to Facebook. When Facebook had 500 million users, Renren had 400 million. So you can actually, when you launch, you can become really big in a very short time because you reach out to 1.4 billion people. Okay, that's what's unique with China, and they do it extremely fast. Yeah. So for those who work a lot with China, they're always waiting for your email. They always are waiting for your response. They don't understand why you're taking vacation. They don't understand why it takes months to get things done. So it goes extremely fast. And we come back to that in Shenzhen, why the prototyping, which can take 6 months to 18 months, in Shenzhen it can take a matter of weeks or day to 1 to 2 months. Yeah. So it goes extremely fast. The speed extremely fast. Yeah. So prototyping extremely fast, launch in the market also very, very fast. That is what it's characterizing China. And it goes in this picture as well. This is Shanghai, if you've been there, in the early 90s. And this is 5 years ago, actually, so it's not actually today. So there are actually more buildings. So Shanghai has more high-rise building, about 33 floors, then number 2, 3, 4 together. So Manhattan, New York, Chicago, and some other cities. Just for you to know, for people that think that China is still run by the old economy with low-cost production, cheap products, and etc., it's actually not that anymore. I could experience the shift when I worked at 2007 to 2016. Around 2010, they actually shifted. So before low-cost production, they did a lot of investment by indebting themselves to invest in infrastructure, building the country. And then they are trying to move up in the value chain from low cost to higher cost production. But what's happening now is that when they focus forward, because they build up the economy, people get richer, they focus on the consumption. So roughly 60% of the economy is actually on consumption now. That's why Alibaba has made a huge growth for the past year. So it's not a market where you actually produce. Of course, you can produce and scale, but it's a market where you actually sell things. Okay? So that's a major difference, and that is what you should think of going forward. You also see that it was before low-cost production, a lot of work were manually done. Now you see a huge shift. You can also hear that from ABB, that the robots that they're selling and the automation they do in the production is going from fully manual to half automated or fully automated. And some of the industries are moving inland or they're moving to Southeast Asia. So that part is also, if you do a lot of AI within this room, that's actually the market you should be in. B2B solutions. And then innovation. That's the part they focus on, mainly on the tier 1 cities in Beijing, Shanghai, Hangzhou, and Shenzhen. So a lot of innovation are coming from China today. They file the most patents. They come up with new unicorns. If you look at unicorns, you see that 40% roughly, 40-45% are in US, 40-45% are in China. And the rest was spread out to other countries. So roughly 250 in US, 250 in China, and then you have a couple from other countries. So they're actually producing a lot of innovation and tech companies. Most people don't know because you're looking at Silicon Valley. More and more people are now looking at China. But it's still very domestic because when they become unicorn, they are local in the Chinese market before they go global. So that's the shift. So I hope it gave you some picture of how China looks like and the possibilities. And I added this part, so some of you from Humblebee maybe I have not seen it. So more on the digitalization part to get the understanding of what's happening in China. I roughly need to read this. 600 million smartphone users. And 90% of the users are buying online, and they're using the mobile phone for doing the payments. The growth I mentioned is around 7%. 770 million are using 4G. It's more than America and Europe combined together. And 65% of the growth is driven by consumption. So what you can see is that the digital China is actually making a shift. It's not only consumption, it's that they are jumping and moving directly online to buy things, and they do it through their mobile phone. So you can go to store and pay and do everything transaction with your mobile phone, either through Tencent or WeChat, or you have Alibaba payment platforms. You can go to the countryside. They have a smartphone, so you want to buy like a potato, whatever. They use a QR code, then you can scan and pay. So they're not using cash. If you go there, you can see the Chinese standing on queue. Everyone is bringing up the phone, and then you have a foreigner trying to get, the cash or the credit card out. So you will experience that. It's a huge difference. And then I heard from a Swedish girl who is ethnically Chinese is that she tried to buy things, and the lady said, "What kind of person are you who doesn't have a WeChat in China?" So for the foreigners, even if you download these kind of apps, is that you don't have the payment solution. Yeah. But it's a big shift. People are using phone to pay more or less everything. And for the younger generation, they get the salary in Tencent Bank, and everything is connected to their payment system and the ecosystem. So you use to order flight tickets, train, hotel, renting, whatever. They do it within this Tencent app, WeChat. This only shows that e-commerce is booming in Asia, and they're taking the lead, and it's mainly in China. And this was this year, Double 11. I don't know if you know about this, similar to the one in US with Black Friday, and this is twice the size of Black Friday, over 200 billion RMB. You take it times 1.3, then you get Swedish crowns. So it's the size of one Ericsson on that day on the revenue. So it's actually huge sales, and they're taking record every year. And it's one of the platform only, because you have Alibaba, they have like 60% of the market. And I mentioned that 90% of the people buy through platform. So my wife, she's like ordering food, I would say everything, just through the app. And then they deliver to your home. You don't even need to go to the stores. Yeah. I'm not sure if it will happen here, but that is how it works now in China. And then they have different solutions to make sure that you get it delivered to your home. Yeah. So online retail and solution with logistic and whatever to that is what's happening now in China. And these are the three giants. In the US, you have FANG. I think you know what it stands for. In China, they say BAT. So Baidu, Alibaba, and then your Tencent. So they have group of companies, and most of them have themselves a unicorn, and then they have a lot of unicorns within the group. These are the three major ones. And then what you can see, I think this picture, I just would like to say that if you see Union Pay over there, it's like Visa and MasterCard. So in China, that is the company or the payment solution that you use if you card. Otherwise, it would be Alipay or WeChat Pay, where you pay through the system. So it's a two parallel world. You have the American solution that usually are used around the world, except China. And then you have a parallel universe for China. More or less, it's only Chinese solutions for the Chinese market. So for some of you that are not working with China, you don't know about these solutions or companies, but it's as big as the American ones in terms of size. So this is an example how Alibaba Group looks like. So they have a lot of companies within the group, I think around 50 plus, and then they have partners. But within the group is 20 unicorns. Yeah. So a lot of these big giants, they're producing a lot of innovative companies that are growing within their ecosystem. And this is only a snapshot of unicorns. Unicorn, for those who doesn't know, it's a private company that is valued more than $1 billion within 10 years. So I tried to look here for Facebook and others. So I'm guessing that this is only showing the ones that come up in 2017, like Spotify from Sweden. Sweden has 7 unicorns. So you can see, like I mentioned, half of those are in China, more or less half of those are in US. And in China, you see these unicorns are produced in Beijing, Shanghai, Hangzhou, where Alibaba have their headquarters, and then you have Shenzhen. So what's unique with Shenzhen and Hong Kong is that Hong Kong has been a colony. It's very transparent. It's easy to do business for foreign companies. And then Shenzhen, you have the electronics and hardware production. So what you can do is that you combine that. So if you look at the unicorns or foreign companies where they actually are successful within innovation in China, they have solutions between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. I will show you some example of that. So these are the cities you should look into for you working with innovation. Okay, then we come to the Greater Bay Area. This is the Greater Bay Area. So you have the Bay Area in US, and this is the Greater Bay Area, 68 million What they try to do is that they open up where products with, I would say, money and also people can move freely. Today you need a visa to enter mainland China, but not to Hong Kong for Swedes. So you can freely move in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is like a free port, so anything that goes in and out is tax-free, except alcohol. So they try to open it up so you can move within these cities. So all the cities are ranging from 1 million to 15 million. Shenzhen, they say, you have here different figures, 11 million people, 20, you hear 30. The mayor say it's 30 million, so depending on who you talk to. Macau, it's only 300,000, it's a gambling city. I heard last year they had like turnover was 4 times higher than Las Vegas. So people from all of Asia go there and gamble. So it's a tourism city. So what they do with the Greater Bay is that they integrate that into a cluster. 68 million people, 11th largest economy. So in 79, when they opened up, they started with Shenzhen. And then after 10 years in Shanghai, after 10 years in Beijing, Chongqing, Chengdu, where Volvo has its factory in Chengdu. And then now they go back again to Shenzhen, the Greater Bay Area, where they take the second phase, and that is on innovation and not low-cost production. So that is what you will see the coming years. Things are happening in China in the southern part. And the engine is Hong Kong, and the innovation in mainland China is in Shenzhen. It's an entrepreneurial city. So what have they done to realize this? They opened up the high-speed train. Before it took 1 hour to get to Shenzhen. Now it takes 14 minutes with the speed train. It took 3 hours to Guangzhou. Now it takes 48 minutes. So they integrate and they're building bridges across the bay. Several huge bridges. The largest one is 55 kilometers long. So instead of taking 1.5 hours, now it takes 30 minutes to Macau and to Zhuhai and other places. So they're integrating this area. So that's the Greater Bay. It's good to remember that when you talk to the people in Silicon Valley, when they say the Bay Area, this is the Greater Bay Area. Just to characterize, so you see, I mean, all of them are electronics makers. So you see the Chinese one, maybe some of them, you know, ZTE, Huawei, and etc. They are in the Greater Bay, so mainly in Shenzhen. And then you have the foreign ones from Asia, but also from the States, that are also in this area. So it's very, I would say, electronical related companies that are in that area. So that is their strength. The city before in Shenzhen was only, I mean, it depends on how far back you go. 2 million, or you go even further back, it's a fishing village, 30,000 people. It's been enormous growth. And created, so everyone is actually immigrant in Shenzhen, coming from all over China. So that's the only city where you speak Mandarin in southern China, and the rest are speaking Cantonese. It's kind of unique in that sense. Hong Kong. I heard some of you, were interested in moving to Hong Kong. It's an amazing city. It's a city of 7 million people. It's one of the most developed cities in Asia, or areas, if you want to put that way. They have a lot of, I would say, greenery where you can hike, and you have ocean. We have colleagues that go surfing in the morning before they go to work, and they go sailing in the weekend. So there are a lot of things what you can do actually in Hong Kong, but it's one of the most expensive cities in the world. So it's a hub, it's a financial hub. Now the government, they want to make it into innovation hub. So you have 4 pillars: trade, logistic, financial, tourism, professional services, 70% of the economy. The innovation is 10, they want to make it bigger of that. So that is connected with Shenzhen. So they want to make an international innovation hub. That's why we put the Nordic Innovation House in Hong Kong, to do business in China, but also in the region. So that's the plan. And I would just say what's unique with Hong Kong is that the location, you can, I mean, the circle shown on the first slide is that you can fly to the other cities or countries within 5 hours, and they reach half of the world's population. So that's uniqueness with Hong Kong. And the tax is lowest in Asia. You have like 16.5% where you pay tax. Corporate tax, individual tax 15%, and then you don't have any other taxes. No dividend tax, no other taxes. So a lot of companies are choosing Hong Kong as the first spot to set up and then do business in China and elsewhere. Yeah, Shenzhen, I think I mentioned a lot about that already. But just to show you, maybe you can read some of that. The figures but what I want to highlight here is that in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship, it's ranked #1 in China. So also the highest GDP per capita in China is in Shenzhen. So that is, when you look at entrepreneurship, innovation, people will look at Shenzhen. So a lot of accelerators from the US, when they look east, they will look at Shenzhen. So you get the combination with Shenzhen and Hong Kong. Here are only some quote about Shenzhen from OnePlus. You have DJI who do the drones, and then you have Hux, which is the largest IoT accelerator hardware globally from US. Is that in Shenzhen you can do extremely fast prototyping within 1 day. You have the whole value chain for the hardware. And then it's easy, if you can bring innovation to China, you can connect that with the hardware to innovate to produce startups. So that's the uniqueness with Hong Kong and Shenzhen. That is something you should keep in mind if you look into this area. And 2 cases, OnePlus, I think you already know, is only 5-year-old company. I mentioned about a lot of mobile phone makers and electronics are in Shenzhen. So you can scale up in the value chain. I mean, producing a lot of units. The market is 1.4 billion in China. So that's how you start. Okay, they sold everything online, and now they're selling on and offline. Yeah? So you start with that, you launch in the market, you can become huge. When you're huge in the market, you move to another market, and usually it's India or emerging markets, and then you go to US and Europe. So they have been extremely successful. One of the co-founder are a Swede Chinese. Okay, so it's one case what we can use scalability and the speed in China. And then you have Daniel Wellington. They started to source in Shenzhen. They have a company in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. Usually where you have a Hong Kong and China company in Shenzhen. So they started to source, and we did a project for them in 2014. There were 3 employees to look for more suppliers. You know. They were expanding very fast, selling in China. And this former colleague, I met him like every quarter or a year. Just recently, for a week ago, they have more than 1,000 employees. So within 3 years, they've been growing extremely fast. So 65% of the market is in China. Okay, so you can do that in scaling. This is a product. It's not I would say, innovative product like the mobile phone, but there are many cases. I just would like to show 2 cases that are related to Sweden. Okay, so all in all, this is the last slide. Just would like to say that you need to think of Asia, and the engine of growth is in China. And if you look into innovation, digital innovation, entrepreneurship, you should look south in China if you have hardware connected to innovation. And there are several success cases where you can actually look in the supply part, but also in the market part where you can scale in enormous speed. Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
When we've been looking at this region. Now you're going to help Humblebee to scale from 30 people to 30,000.
I hope.
What kind of support can you provide for companies, startup like us here in the house and some of our bigger?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the easy way for startup, usually what we provide is market support. So the basic ones if you want to set up a company, to look for partners, customers, a supplier, that is usually what startup or smaller companies needs. But for the larger companies, it's more strategy to look on the market, how to approach a market, if you should acquire companies, and how you should go about to look into more on a Asia level and then on a market level. So I think for Humblebee is more looking to partners to start up, I would suggest, and then look into how you can work with hardware partners. Could be one. You come with innovation and then you have someone who can do the hardware part, and then you can have offering within that. Yeah.
So, any more questions? Van?
Yes, just curious, so you told us a lot of great things about China, and you're Swedish, right? Chinese, yes. Swedish. What's the general view from China on Sweden and the Nordic countries as cultures and people and behavior? Big question, but just a reflection
Lately,
on that.
you mean, or in general? A very positive, except the last incidents that happened in Sweden. But I would say in general, really, really positive. Swedes are honest. They see Sweden as a very innovative because of the Nobel Prize. And also that Sweden has high quality of products. So I think overall they think Sweden is actually good. Yeah. They don't have any, I think I would say, political conflicts with Sweden as for now, but there are some issues with the journalists. Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's, yeah.
Any more? No questions at all. It's all crystal clear.
What is the plan in Hong Kong?
For Humblebee? I mean, we took this opportunity after, of course, as you can just see, I mean, now it's a presentation, but after actually being there also and seeing this force and what's happening there, and then the opportunity within Nordic Innovation House. We did not say so much, but Nordic Innovation House, it's a opportunity and a platform for startup and within tech to go global, and it's minimizing the risk, so that you can start looking at a market and get access to a network and a platform. So for us, it's an opportunity to start looking and finding partners. Of course, it's one way of going across the globe is to go with your customers. Another way is because you find someone that you want to work with there. So we are looking at different alternatives for Humblebee, but it's definitely a place that we want to keep our eyes on. And of course also we have a good network there. So we just have to see if we become one of the unicorns. Yeah.
I heard some rumors, I got some SMS from our competitors that you would make a successful communication. So the whole China knows about Humblebee.
Yeah, I mean, we had the opportunity to be on. I got thrown on stage, I said, but it was, of course, a fantastic opportunity to be on stage, and it was a really good meetup. It was delegations there from Sweden, and so it was a very good event and a good place to be. And of course, we took all the opportunities that we could.
Yeah, it was over 40 media from Hong Kong and China. And the outreach was a couple, you know how many millions there are in China. So both on TV, radio, and on regular media and social media. So for that, for Humblebee, it was a really good marketing opportunity. Yeah.
I got an SMS from some competitors in high Q that said, this is not fair.
Really?
Well, it's good. Make sure that you get to be in the Chinese newspaper, and then you can be on 1.4 billion breakfast tables in the morning. Yeah. One more question.
About the whole technology, with the whole innovation within the technology and everything. Do you think it's good, or do you think it helped China to kind of skip one step of the digital revolution or the technological revolution? Because it's moved so fast, so that they didn't really start where we started, if you know what I mean. Do you think it helped them when it comes to being
I think
really
Chinese,
quick in the
not
innovation?
only Chinese, you see that in India, but also in several countries in Africa, that they're skipping certain steps. So not moving to fixed phones and joining mobile phones and payments through mobile phones. So I think it's more for Chinese, they always look at new technologies. They scout for the latest technologies, and they say if this is good, then they implement it. And I would say in terms of innovation, before they were like learning from the West. Now they have learned for many areas. They still need to acquire companies, but they have a lot of money, so they acquire. Or certain areas they're actually taking lead. Like
so
within,
they're not stuck kind of in old habits.
No, they want to change. They always want, at least within innovation, they want the latest things. You can feel. I also feel it here. I would say, in Sweden, a lot of countries are using Sweden as a test market. So Swedes adapt to trends and new things. But if you go into South Europe, it's very different. They don't want to have the new things. Yeah? For certain countries, I don't mention which ones. Yeah? But in China, they want new things all the time. So which is good for innovation. So for the others that are on Humblebee, I mean, if you want to produce scaling up something very fast or go into market to build a huge company, then China would be the market. If you want to join to become a unicorn or join the billionaires club, then it's China.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay then. Pierre, do you want to? Yes. The microphone.
If there's no further questions, I just want to say thank you to everyone being here. For you who don't know me, I started here a week ago. I'm the CEO of Vin Group. Since I started Monday the 3rd, I've been floored every day, basically. One of the first things I found out was that Humblebee were in Hong Kong visiting the Great Bay Area. And every day I've been getting news like that. And I think Vin Group is an amazing platform for building world-class niche consultancy type of businesses. With that, we want the world to come to us. But of course, we also recognize and know that we also need to join the world and be out there and meet people. Regardless how digital the world is, you need to meet people and build relationship to create new solutions. We have a big belief here in mixing cultures, mixing knowledge and experience and blending to find new innovative ways of doing things. And also I think Tove, you realize that if you can't beat them, join them. So I think you did the right decision to go to China and talk to those guys. With that, I just want to hand over a thank you to you guys and a little gift. It's actually in-house bred, in-house designed pair of glasses from our great team at Uwin. So thank you, Mr. Van, right?
Yes.
For being here and sharing all the knowledge you have. And we're looking forward to continue working with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, also a big thank you to the great colleague of mine, Tove. You get a hug. Amazing spirit and person. Also, you get a pair of in-house design glasses. Yeah. So thank you.
Great.